So now our core topic is to discuss about what's next after GI registration. But as Ms. Yung substantiated yesterday, we've got several points to cover too. So I will cover the points left from yesterday and then continue with discussing about this topic. So the presentation will be delivered according to this index. Firstly, we will review the functions of a registered GI just to make us a little bit fresh about the idea of why it is important for GI to be registered. And then we will continue with the topic left from yesterday about GI label. And then thirdly, about how to update why we can update our GI product specification. And then we will discuss about controlling plan. The topic yesterday was the controlling plan as well, but I think we will make it deeper today. And then after that, we will discuss about the membership of CMO on geographical indication. And then how if a CMO on GI fails to comply with the rules in GI specification. And then we will discuss about compliance and problems after GI registration. And then what matters after GI registration, and then dispute settlement. So allow me to start from reviewing the function of GI. So actually, GI is a tool to raise the value of the product. It is also a tool to transform the market. And then, of course, to combat usurpation, misuse, misrepresentations, and misappropriation. But geographic indication protection actually can also be used as a tool of sustaining the informant related to the geographical origin of the goods or products. It can also be used to preserve and promote cultural heritage and tradition. And GI can be also a tool to educate consumers. And in some places, it can also be used to alleviate poverty and conduct inclusive economy. And GI can also be used to empower economic independence in the GI geographical area. So by saying them, let's start again about the technical things about drafting the specification, following the topics we discussed yesterday. About GI label, how to draft it. GI label can consist of a logo denoting the GI name. But GI label should not be exactly the same, having substantial nor deceptive similarity with registered trademarks or registered new plant varieties. So it should be different with trademark, registered trademark, or registered new plant varieties. The general appearance of a GI label can be similar with other registered GI label, as long as it has a distinctive feature about the specificity of the product. So the similarity is allowed as long as it excels this distinctive feature about specificity of the product. We can see in the examples later, okay? GI label should be accompanied by a specific rule of labeling system. So such as if you would like to put the label on the package, where it should be put, okay? And GI label can also be accompanied by a single national GI label. Some of the countries here have got it on the packaging of the product. And GI label can also be accompanied by an individual trade name or trademark of each member of the CMO GI or GI associations. So this is the example. Okay, with all of them are the examples of logos on GI. in European Union, we've got a single logo, protected geographical indication, or PGI. It is translated into several languages available in Europe. So we can see that PGI and protected designation of origins are the single logo used in European Union. But look at the logos. They are quite similar, right? So it is allowed as long as there is a depiction about the specificity of the logo. So have a look at this. Protected geographic indication. It is translated in French, l'indication géographique protégée. And then it is similar, only different color with protected designation of origin, or PDO. Actually, the protections between under this logo are quite different, because for PDO, it is stricter. So all of the production process should be in the geographical area. Whereas if a product is protected under PGI, maybe 40% or 30% of the packaging or production can be conducted outside the GI map. But for sure, the highest the substantial process and the highest percentage of the process of making the product should be conducted in the geographical area. Then in the case of PDO, the production process from the beginning until the end, until the packaging process, should be conducted in the protected area. And we are in European Union. It's also there is also a special logo for l'appellation d'origine protégée, or the protected appellation of origin. Maybe members in ASEAN who have ratified Lisbon system will consider to use this as well. And these are the examples of a single national GI logo from Thailand. This is Thai geographic indication from Thailand, and this is the national logo from geographical indication from Indonesia, and this is from Cambodia and from Laos. But basically, the logo also can be drafted by this CMOGI. This is the national logo too for GI from Malaysia. Sorry, I miss it. This Darjeeling, for example, Darjeeling is the logo, not a single national logo, but the logo for special tea from India. This is well known. And Fin de Bordeaux, for example, this is the special logo for wines other than well-known champagne, okay, from France. So the logo can also be drafted by the CMOGI, and we can display both of them, especially if you would like to sell the products overseas, and we plan to market it internationally. So we can use our the logo of the products as well as the national logo of GI from the country of origin. And this is interesting because the GI logo can also be integrated or accompanied by the trade name of the producers. For example, these are two trademarks example of Coonawarra wines. Different. There are many others. So in Coonawarra, they, as a group of producers or a CMOGI, they are allowed to use Coonawarra. Okay. but they are also allowed to integrate the term, which is a GI term, Coonawarra, in their individual mark, like this, Vince Coonawarra Estate. The Coonawarra is a GI, but Vince Estate is a trademark. And the Vince Coonawarra Estate is the biggest wine producers in Coonawarra, Australia. And then they put even the spatial historical buildings about the estate. And this is also the trademark of a type of Coonawarra wine. It is integrated with the GI term Coonawarra, but together with this the producers, the single producers trademark, which is the poplars. Okay, so we can use the logo of GI in a very flexible way, depending on the interest, the best interest of us, of course. We can use it as a logo on the scope of international regional cooperation or unity, like in the European Union, or we can also use it as single national logo denoting a country of origin. We can also use it as a logo of the community holders or the CMOGI, and we can also integrate the name, the GI, together with the trademarks. Amendment of GI product specification can be conducted in the case of the change of peculiar quality and or characteristic of the registered GI. Only a peculiar quality, not the whole quality, the peculiar quality due to the change of geographical environment. This sometimes happened in some of geographical regions of a GI, because we've got exchange environment. Okay, for example, in Indonesia there was a potential GI of orange in Garut, but after the eruption of a mountain in Garut, the product can be the products are changed, the quality are changed. If the change is substantial, we cannot amend the specification. But if it is not substantial, we may amend it. And of course, we can amend the specification if there is a change of particular production method, not whole, but particular. Or maybe a change of border lines of the GI map. As I mentioned yesterday, there was a substantial change of the map of the Coonawarra wine territory. And it was, they said it, nearly a bloodshed conflict by when they discussed about the change of the map. But they resulted in a good agreement of the new borderlines of the map. So the change is possible as long as the members of the CMOGI allow it, or as long as it is a decision of the CMOGI, not the decisions of the government or the state, but the decisions of the CMOGI. And the change of the membership of the CMOGI. Sometimes the associations or CMOGI doesn't include all the producers living in the territories. So we can change or amend the product specification if there is a slight difference about the memberships, or maybe one producer's passed away and then it is changed by their offsprings. So it can be changed. The specification can be changed due to the slight changes of the membership. But the amendment of GI product specification cannot be conducted in the case of the product substance, process, or packaging is or continuously conducted below the minimum standards substantiated in the specification. Amendment cannot be conducted either if there is a degradation of the reputation, quality, or characteristic of the protected product after a certain period of time, according to the applicable national law. For example, maybe in Indonesia, it is substantiated but that if the quality or characteristics is changed, substantially changed in 2 years, so the protection is lost. The GI lost its protections within 2 years. So it is not a matter of amendment, but because the protection is lost. Okay, and amendment cannot be done either if there is a change of the geographical environment which substantially affects the products, like Garut orange I told you. And the change of the whole place of origin where the products are produced, of course. Okay. For example, if all producers move to other areas because of earthquakes, for example, and then they don't move back to that areas, and they produce and they start to produce the products outside the areas. So it is not a matter of amendment, it's just apply for the new application. And the amendment cannot be done either if there is a change of the whole quality or characteristic of the product. This is a matter of the new application. And it is not compulsory, but GI, it can be regulated that GI is not used beyond the time when the protection is sought. So non-use GI can be regulated as prohibited, like trademark. We cannot register trademark and we don't use it. So we the registered trademark should be used. GI for sure should be used as well. It is even before the registration. It is highly advisable that a GI has been used before the registration because we would like to know the reputation of the GI. How can we know the reputation without have been used? So if there is a GI which becomes, we call it a sleeping beauty after registration, it is not used, maybe for certain period of time, for example, for 2 years, it will lose the protection. So it is not a matter of amendment. It is a matter of the new application. Okay, let's move on to discuss about drafting controlling plan. Actually, GI controlling system or plan can consist of self-control, internal control, and external control. Self-control is conducted by the producers themselves, maybe on a daily basis actually, but it can be also on a weekly or monthly basis, as long as it is conducted regularly. Now, about the internal control, what we call it internal because it is done by the associations as a cooperation of several CMOs GI. So it is conducted by, could be a special body or division. And external control conducted by independent private or public institutions. So it's based on the national laws, whether the external control will be conducted by private or public institution. If the internal control has been conducted efficiently, external controller reviews the report from the internal controllers. So by conducting the self-control and internal control efficiently, Actually, we make the job or the duty of external controllers easier. Now, what should be drafted in the controlling plan over a GI? There are several elements to be drafted in a controlling plan. Those are, firstly, aspects of the product on which the controlling system applies, of course. So not the product itself, but the aspects, maybe the form, the taste, maybe the quality of the threads in handicrafts product and so forth. And traceability. It is about the amount of the products and then the types of the products and who will responsible in the products before marketing. So all of the products should be arranged in the way that can be traced back. And the controlling methods, like we discussed before, and the frequency, it could be on daily basis or monthly basis or yearly basis, depending on the controllers. And of course, the controllers, who will control what? And the targeted or minimum standards to obtain. Of course, if we would like to control something, we have to set the standard or the target. So the product should be produced according to the targeted standards, the minimum standards. It would be better if it is produced beyond the standards, but it is not allowed to be produced below the standards. Controlling targets can be derived from several sources. Of course, controlling targets can be derived from GI product specifications themselves. Actually, we have to draft the targets in the specification. But we can also add the targets with the contents or targets from the, for example, national accreditation standards on products quality. We can also add the targets with the special standards of quality regarding organic substance, for example. Not all GI products should have a organic substance, but some of maybe agricultural products or wild products are worth to be targeted based on or according to organic substance. So the substance should be organic. And hygiene. We know that the standard of hygiene now is raised because of the COVID pandemic. So we can add the standard of hygiene to be complied in the specifications or in the on the other document that assists the controlling plan or associated document. We can also add the controlling plan to be compliant with the standard or environmental friendly products, for example, or circular economy, or against animal cruelty. It is not compulsory. Please we know that this is not compulsory, but you may, because as I mentioned yesterday, actually the specification is a kind of contract for the members of the CMO-GI. So as a contract, legally, there is freedom to draft a contract insofar that it is not against the law. So we can add the additional targets depending on the consumers you would like to obtain. We can also add the targets by obtaining that the product should meet their standards, international standard derived from IP international legal instruments. Standards of health from World Health Organization, for example. Standard of non-illicit products from TRIPS agreement. I think this is not optional, this is compulsory. because all of us are members of TRIPS agreement, and geographic indication is one of subject matter of TRIPS. And we can also add in the case that the products is derived from genetic resources, we can add the controlling plan with the targets from United Nations Convention on Biodiversity about whether the product is produced according to or supporting environment sustainability. And if the products is planned to be marketed overseas in the international trade, the target of biosafety as content of United Nations Convention of Biodiversity as well as Cartagena Protocol can prevail. It can the target can also to be complied with the anti-biopiracy provisions in Nagoya Protocol, or anti-discrimination on human and other living creatures based on United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, ILO Convention, and even United Nations Declaration of the Right of Indigenous People. We know that some products have been very controversial because in the production process, the workers have been treated badly, not according to the standards of labor standards set up by ILO Convention. So the target can be added by the compulsory to comply with these provisions. Okay. Now, this is the example of drafting controlling plan. This is still a tentative example because it is in the process of drafting. Sumba Ikat Woven Cloth is a process of applying GI protection. It has been inscripted in UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage, but it hasn't been registered as a GI. So this is still tentative. For example, this is the production process of the ikat or tighted. Ikat means tighted. Okay. Sumba Ikat woven fabric. We can detailing the aspects of the a piece of fabric, like the threads, the motifs, the ikat itself, and then Katah Maung Kangurat is the indigenous term to release the knots, the ikat, and then to soak it. Wailanga is not an indigenous. It is not an Indonesian word, but indigenous word. Wailanga means soaking the threads in a traditional way. And kombu as well is the traditional way to coloring the products and weaving. So the target, like the element is threads for one piece of fabric. The target's spent tightly, okay? Drafted according to local wisdom, because motifs sometimes are sacred. So it has to be complied with the local wisdoms. And the controller should be the elders of the indigenous community themselves, rather than the maybe the academic of the fabric from the faculty of design or the expert from the ministry. No, but by the elders of indigenous community themselves, because the motifs can be sacred. Now, ikat, the target, it is very qualitative target, but you can also draft the quantitative one, okay? The quantitative targets, which is all qualitative targets. So for Katah Maung Kangurat, the knots, the target knots are well released according to the method, the traditional method of releasing the knots. And then for Wailanga, the threads are well soaked, and kombu, the organic colors are applied. So these are the targets should be obtained by the producers. And the method can be self-control, internal control conducted by the elders of the indigenous community. So the elders are not the producers, but they are still inside the community. And then self-control can also be accompanied by internal and external control in the finalization process of the fabric conducted by CMO associations or GI expert team from the ministry, for example. Okay, so this is the controlling plan. Please be sure that this is only an example. So it is you if you are a producers, even you are more expert to know which ones of the aspects of the product should be controlled. So you have to detail them and then target them and then put the method of control, the frequency, and the controllers. So all of them are the elements of drafting the controlling plan. The product, the target, the method, the frequency, and the controller. Okay? Okay. So let's move on in discussing the compliance. Compliance is targeted to the content of the product specification, GI product specification. But also in the case where the products are made by indigenous people, for example, and some of them are sacred, the customary laws and protocols related to the GI products also prevail. We can also set the compliance system to be according to the domestic law and regulations related to GI, standardizations, and general IP protection and trade. Compliance procedure can be conducted through observation, monitoring and inspection, regular reports, responding to consumer complaints in media control. Please be careful about this. We know that media control becomes stronger and stronger nowadays because we use internet more frequently. And it can also be in the form of punishment to CMO GI members who fail to comply with the GI product specification, but it depends on the internal regulation of the CMO GI actually. And compliance can also be conducted or enforced by, of course, taking legal action to competitors who conduct unfair competition by usurpation, by misusing the GI, by misrepresentation the GI, or misappropriation the GI. I would like to remind all of us again about the membership of the collective management organization of GI. I mentioned this briefly in the first session yesterday. A CMOGI can consist of local producers and or processors. It can also consist of local or traditional farmers or breeders. It can also consist of local operators, landowners, indigenous community, tribe or clan, local artists, in the case of handicrafts, for example, local traders, and in some extent, local government and state. But please be careful to regard local government and state as the holder of the CMO, that actually the right held by the government is the right to manage rather to own. So as I mentioned too yesterday, the exclusive right of the GI is actually not the exclusive right of ownership. Instead, it is the exclusive right to use. So by saying that, if the holders is government or state, the local government or state have to be carefully act as the representations of the associations or CMOGI. So they will not be a conflict between the state or local government with the CMOGI, because sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. So be careful. Now, how if a CMOGI fails to comply with rules in GI specification? As I remind you several times, we have to be aware that members of CMOGI shall comply with the rules in the GI specification and regard the document as a binding contract within the members of the CMOGI. So the description is a binding contract within the CMOGI members. So there are consequences if the implementations of the rule set up in the specification failed. There is an internal consequences and external consequences. The internal consequences, we can expect to remake the products. Don't sell the products that is produced below the standard, because it will be harmful for the reputation of the GI. Okay, so the products which has been produced below the standard should be remade. Other consequences: delaying the finalization of the products, rejecting the products. Some CMO do that. And of course, prohibiting the application of the GI logo on the products, or destroy the products if it is harmful. For example, if the products consist of herbal products like traditional medicine, it should be destroyed because it's very harmful for the consumers and will surely damage the reputation of the product. And you may give the sanction for the wrongdoer, but it is up to the members of the CMOGI. And the external consequences: be careful about the media. They are very critical now. They use virtual word very effectively. So if the products is being criticized by media, it will damage our reputations. So if we fails to comply with the rules, it will be criticized by the media if the products have already been entering the markets. It can be sought as too by consumers or NGO authorized in consumer protection. In Indonesia, there is a special foundation dealing with the consumers' complaint. So they have a legal standing based on the consumer protection law to take a legal action against bad products, including GI products. And of course, this is what we are really afraid of: degradation of the reputation of the product. We know that reputation is very costly. Okay, so we have to maintain the reputation. And disqualification of the products by internal or external controllers, and loss of GI protection if the failure subsists more than a grace period provided in the applicable national law. Not all national laws provide this, but there is a possibility that if the GI protection fail to comply with the regulations substantiated in the book of specification or the product specification, the protection can be lost. For example, in Indonesia, after 2 years, if the failure cannot be remade, the protection will be lost. And the failure can be an object of injunction and compensation if it is proceeded in the court. So it should be based on court decision, but court decision can order an injunction or compensation because of the failure to comply with the rules in product specification. And if it is really, really harmful, it can also be an object of criminal liabilities in accordance to court. But of course, criminal liabilities depends on the national or domestic laws, but it can happen. If, for example, again, if the GI is the herbal products or traditional medicines, and then the production failed to comply with the specification, and it is traded or it is consumed by the consumers, and something happened with the health of the consumers, maybe he got a horrible sickness, okay, it can be a case in the court, and the criminal liabilities could apply. So assume that we have finished drafting our geographical indication product specifications and the controlling plans. So we've got problems after drafting and even after being registered. Not all members of CMOGI, especially traditional farmers, local producers or processors, or indigenous communities, have a thorough and detailed understanding about the content of GI product specifications, especially when the drafting process were conducted by third party. Some CMOGI and local governments applying for GI still regard the certificate of GI as a kind of award rather than a tool of trade. I think this problem happens in us, okay, developing countries. Registered GIs, which are formally held by the state or local governments, sometimes trigger a tension between the government and the CMOGI regarding the power and benefit sharing. So we have to be careful with this problem. So I would like to say, what I would like to say is that after the drafting process and after the registration process, the job is not finished. This is after the GI being registered, there is other things to be worried about and to be dealt with. And other problems. GI, which covers a wide geographical area, such as mountainous terrain or hills, makes coordination between CMOGI members problematic, especially if they live with poor media facilities. So I think this is a problem in developing countries in most of ASEAN members. Not all, but some. Some CMOGI still lack of knowledge and skills of GI management and control. They used to be a traditional farmers, for example. How they know about the complexity of management. Okay, so this is a problem. Also, the problem is unclear targeted consumer and to what extent the reputation would be enhanced. So actually, from the beginning, we have to decide Even we can draft it in the specification, the targeted consumers. If you would if we would like to market the products in the national level, so that the consumer should be the members of our country. But if you would like to trade it internationally, so the target should be international consumers, and we have to learn about how to market it in international trade. So, and then more importantly, according to GI is a tool to shape what we call a niche consumers, the special consumers with a deep pocket who who love the products and becomes the devoted consumers. Actually, a lot of well-known GIs exist because of the niche market or the devoted consumers like them. So we have to think about how to shape the consumers in that way. So we have the special consumers very devotedly who will continuing buying our products. Fail to sustain the quality and or characteristics of the products because of the rise of demands. It used to be local products, and then it has been successfully registered, and then it is marketed nationally, internationally, and the demands are raised, and they're overwhelmed with the demands. Okay, because of that situation, the quality of the production decreased. Okay, that's the problem. And in several CMOGI, there were data set in my county that there is a PhD candidate writing about the structure of CMOGI, and some structures of CMOGI, not all, are prone to become a one-man show rather than the collective management. So only one prominent producer will manage everything and decide everything and trade and dominate the trade. And sleeping GI, the sleeping beauty, they are still exist, I think, in many countries in ASEAN. So we have to have a special effort to avoid this. So now, what matters after GI registration? After we know about the problems, after the drafting process, after the registration process. So even though maybe you can or you don't need to substantiate it in the specification after we drafted, or even before the registration, or alongside with the registration process, internal dissemination program should be conducted. So all members of CMOGI should have similar knowledge, depth of knowledge about the content of the description. We have to empower the members of CMOGI to change their habits, especially if they used to be traditional farmers or indigenous people, they have to change the habits to manage something in accordance to the national management system or international trade. So they can implement the GI product specification effectively. So the producers or the member of CMOGI have to be able to produce the products strictly according to the rules substantiated in the specification. And of course, they have to be able to implement the GI controlling plan, especially the self-control and internal controls. dissemination and advertisement programs on the specialty of the GI product to the public, especially the targeted consumers, is also really, really important after drafting the specification and obtain the protection through registration. Now, to implement the content of GI specifications effectively, we have to conduct capacity building for CMO GI members. It's very important. Many CMO think that they already know everything, but actually not. So the capacity building have to be in the programs after the drafting and registration. It can take a form of internal programs on the technical capacity building for existing members of CMO GI on the specification. It can also take a form of the education or capacity building for the new staff. Recruiting staff and educating more staffs are important for many CMOs, GI, because after the drafting process and registration process, and after the certificate is granted, the demands are raised. So engaging in external capacity building programs like this regarding optimizing GI management, GI control and traceability, branding, and marketing strategy are very important too. And of course, working together, because we are talking about communal ownership, collective, not ownership, holders, communal holders, collective holders. So working together, very important, not only between the members of CMOGI, but also with other NGO. Universities, for example, I'm from university. We experienced that working together like this is very fruitful and enrich us in both sides, both for the CMOGI as well as academics. Because for CMOGI, we can provide with fresh data they required without asking them to pay us, because we have maybe the university grant to conduct the survey, or maybe we can we can be in a cooperation with ministries or other funding, international funding, to conduct the survey, so they can have the data to strengthen the implementations of the specification, or even to draft the specification. Other specification, okay. Working together also have to be conducted with the public authorities to avoid the tension, because in some geographical origin, there are tensions between the CMOGI and the local government. So working together should be substantiated, is very important in enhancing the GI as a tool of economic development, because CMOGI cannot work alone. This is a matter of working together, not only within the producers as a members of CMOGI, but also with the local government, also with the NGO, the universities, and even the state and the law enforcement officers. We have to be working together. Now, after the drafting process, we have to implement the specification. Please, I would like to remind you that even though we haven't got the certificate granted, GI exists through use. So after the drafting process, let's implement the specification, because it's It's a kind of contract between the members of the GI, the CMO-GI. Okay, don't wait until the certificate is granted. Just start to implement it after the drafting process. So the producers should produce the product according to the GI specification. The members of CMO-GI, the producers, should also implement the self-control, internal control, and after the registration, the external control. And conduct regular survey on the quality and characteristic of the product to maintain the GI. Also conduct sustainable programs on research and human development, because we need more skilled staffs to produce the products according to the specification. Of course, also we have to expand the network, mobilizing stakeholders and shaping niche market for the GI products. So we will be safe by the devoted consumers, because they will always seek our product. They will pay without even seeing in detail the products. They really they love and they trust the products. Okay. And of course, maintaining the reputation and trust of the devoted consumers. This is very important. We've got, let's move on to about the controlling plan, how to implement the controlling plan. GI controlling methods can be in the form of direct observation, visual analysis by eyes, sensorial or tasting analysis. If it's a foodstuff products, we use sensorial or tasting analysis the most, like wine tasting, coffee tasting, of course by experts. I'm not an expert, I'm a consumer, but I'm not an expert. So, there are experts, there are a PhD on wine tasting and PhD in coffee. So they have a special talent to taste the product. So they can become a controllers, of course. And lab analysis, of course, producers shouldn't be transform themselves into a researcher, but big GI, big CMO GI have got the divisions consist of the expert in conducting lab analysis, but the CMO GI can ask the experts from outside. And then review on documents by external controllers or internal controllers, and survey, field study, and field research. The national controllers in Indonesia conduct the survey annually to control the quality of GI products registered in Indonesia. Now, to implement our GI controlling plan, we have to prioritize self-control to maintain the quality and characteristic of the products. Why? Because it is the producers themselves, it's the members of the GI CMO themselves who know the best quality and characteristic of the product. So self-control is very important to be conducted by the members of the CMO themselves. After that, we have to prioritize external control to maintain the reputation. So we have the elements, right? In the book of specification, there are reputation, quality, and characteristics. In the case of quality and characteristics, self-control is very important. But in the case of reputation, external control is the most important agent. The most important aspect and the external controller is the most important agent. We also use, we should also have to use information technology, especially for expand the market, because during the pandemic, the markets have been transformed into digital markets, even in the developing countries. Observe, we should also observe and proactively respond to media or consumers as a part of optimizing consumers' control. Don't be silent if the consumers or media criticize us, because it is a part of maintaining the reputation substantiated in our specification. So don't be silent, be proactive, not to be aggressive, because it's sometimes it's costly to be aggressive, but you allow to be aggressive, but it's very costly, but we have to be proactive. Now, in marketing GI product, as I told you, don't after drafting the specification, don't wait until the certification, the certificate of GI granted, because GI exists based on the use of GI. So after that, we can start to market the GI products, okay, according to the specification. We can start preparing the products according to the GI product specification, deciding the markets, deciding market targets, amount of selling, time span, and profit you would like to obtain. Yeah. Some of the CMO GI complained to me that to conduct a process of making a specification and apply for registration, they have to pay by themselves. So it's very costly. So by marketing the GI product, this is actually the basic objective of protecting the product, to have a profit, right? So we have to decide the marketing targets, especially how much profit you plan to get from the protection of the GI products. And of course, again, deciding the market, deciding the consumers should be alongside with deciding the marketplaces. Also, we have to decide the marketing tools according to the nature of the market, whether it is a physical market, online market. I'm now like online market more than physical market because of pandemic. I think most of you are the same with me. And hybrid market. We also have to observe the characters of consumers as long as the characters of our competitors. Okay. And then also, Professor Philip Griffith, one of highly regarded professor in intellectual property, he says that education of consumers about the importance of GI, about the quality of the IP, actually, IP products, including GI, and the quality of GI is very important, because not all consumers are well educated. So we have to educate GI consumers about the character of the product, the quality of the product, a value added of product according to good health, for example, safety and wellness. So if you would like to buy GI protected product, it will be safer, it will raise your wellness and welfare rather than a fake products or mediocre products. We have to teach the consumers, and maybe educating consumers will be more effective if we provide them with the pre and post purchase services. Consumers like it. And access to related programs associated with the GI products. For example, if you would like to make the GI more known by the consumers, we can also teach the consumers that if you would like to purchase the products, you can also visit the region of the protected products, because you can see how the products are being made. You can enjoy the rituals associated with the product. So it will be more enchanting for consumers that the products have the geographical origins. So the geographical origins would be beneficial to raise the what how consumers see the product, not only the product itself, but the surroundings, the story about the products. Okay. And educating consumers also have to be conducted alongside with opening, expanding, and shaping the markets and commercializing the GI through advertisement strategy. Now, how to defend a GI? Against misuse, usurpation, misappropriation, and hijacks. With proactively conducting programs against genericization process in the market. What is it? Genericization process is process naturally happen in the market with the highly known or well-known products. It happens in well-known marks, actually, most of them. So for example, if it is a mark, well-known mark, people start to use the term in a mark as not only as a name of specific product, but a general product. And then after that, consumers start also to use the name of the mark not only as a generic product, but also as what we call it, as an acting. So people lost their impression about the specificity of the name. Rather, they associate the name with the genus. So it becomes generic. Because people say the genus similarly with calling the genus by using the name of the mark or the GI name. They also start to use even the name not as a noun, but to conduct something. The example of the GI producers who are very strongly taking action against genericizations process in the market of GI is the producers from Champagne. We can discuss, maybe not in these sessions because it will take an hour more, about how Champagne producers negotiated even with the governments, maybe in AU, with AU as well, how to defend the genericization of the process by, for example, not only combating the kind of misappropriation or negotiating the special content for the second level protection in TRIPS. Okay, but also to register the product in the country who don't have a good markets. Okay, for example, in some of the countries in ASEAN in ASEAN who don't eat alcoholic beverages, maybe registrations of champagne is questionable. Why you register in Indonesia, for example? But we know that it is the the effort to make it is registered, not become a generic. So this is very good example, and thumbs up for them because they have invested many resources against genericization. And also maintaining the quality and characteristic of GI product, maintaining devoted consumers, implementing and upgrading GI controlling mechanism if necessary, and of course, amendment of GI specification if necessary. Also conducting cooperation with stakeholders authorized in law enforcement, cross-border protection measures, and extraterritorial virtual measures. This happens in virtual market because the jurisdiction, we call it extraterritorial jurisdiction. And by saying that, if we would like to defend or protect our GI according to book of specification, we can go through several dispute settlements mechanisms like negotiations, mediations, arbitrations, and even going to the spatial tribunal and court according to national laws.